Texas. I'm Chase Ingram, along with Adrian Conway and Mike Arsenault. We've had one heat down, the second and final heat. This is the final action we will see from the individual men tonight. Even though we got 2 more days of competition, your standings after 3 scored events. A new name we have never seen on top of the leaderboard. It is the youngster, James Sprague, with 255 points, holding on to a 6-point lead over Dallin Pepper, who has a 6-point lead on Jason Hopper. Adrian, we got track and field one more time tonight.
We do, and all of these men are going to put on display the fitness that they've got with their legs. They're going to run 1,600 meters for time. They're going to get the remaining time to rest until the 12-minute mark, and then we're going to reset for a sprint and shuttle run that is weighted with a 100-pound sandbag start.
17 athletes making their way to the track for a 1,600-meter run. A couple athletes to keep your eye on in lanes 9 through 11. Those are your top 3 so far after 3 scored events between Hopper, Sprague, and Pepper. But don't sleep on Ricky Garrard in lane 15, who can be one of those athletes that can win this entire thing.
Stand by. Here we go.
Second and final heat off and underway. A little jostling at the start of the track, and you had to get out early to get you some clean air.
Yeah, we've talked about that in previous heats. It's important to get your elbow space. A lot of these athletes are used to tempo runs and longer runs and doing all the pacing that they need to do, Chase, but they do it by themselves. They're not used to head-to-head racing, and that is a unique skill set to develop.
Hot out of the gates, it's Ricky Garrard. Missed last year due to an injury. 3rd place in 2022. Currently sitting 10th overall, and is one of the athletes we were looking at that could win the entire thing this year.
Win the entire thing for sure. And I think sitting in a 10th position isn't actually where Ricky wanted to be, nor expected to be at this point. You would expect him to make a statement with an event like this 1,600-meter run, with his athletic background in rugby, other field sports, also having a huge passion for biking on a regular basis. He's got lungs and a heart that can take him a long way. We'll see if his legs are still intact after the rest of the day's events to put that on display.
This is the largest lead we've seen on the first lap in all 3 heats between the women and the men, as Ricky Garrard is about a 1:04 on that first 400 meters, followed by Callie Souza and Yella Hosta. The rest of the pack hanging close. Ricky Garrard on his 2nd lap of 4. Fastest time we've seen so far, 5:06 by Luke Parker in heat number 1. Ricky Garrard looks like he's running comfortable, calm, but fierce and focused as far as it goes for Ricky Garrard, who needs to make a move here tonight. Callie Souza just ahead of Yella Hosta, so the rest of the pack is well back of Ricky Garrard, and he might have put himself, either he's running excessively too fast, or he has just absolutely just broke the band when it comes to him and the chase pack.
Yeah, and I think that was his mindset right out of the gate. I'm going to create my own space. I'm going to make this safe. I'm going to dictate the pace of myself and let these other athletes know I'm literally running my own races, and you're not in the stratosphere at this distance when it comes to competing with me.
Adrian, on the women's side, you were curious, can any woman hit a 5:30 as far as his 1,600 meter? On the men, the question you came in is, can anyone go sub 5? As it stands right now, Ricky in the final 10 meters of a 2nd lap, sitting right at 2:20 on a 4:40 1,600 meter pace.
We can only expect it to slow just a touch, but right now he looks so calm, composed, and focused. I mean, there's potential for Roman to even be contending for a sub 5-minute mile at this pace. If he can, actually, he would need to increase his just a touch, but wow, Ricky is looking cool as a cucumber out there far in the lead.
Roman Karenikov back in the chase pack is starting to separate himself. Roman, who's a fast runner in his own right. Roman got 3rd place last year at the 2023 CrossFit Games, who's in a leading position but broke his foot with 2 events left to go and still finished on the podium.
Yeah. And Chase, this is one thing for people that might be new to our methodology tuning in. They might say, well, guys, I just watched the Olympics. They were running 1,500 meters and something obscenely faster than what we're seeing your athletes do. What's the deal? Well, Chase, these athletes can also snatch 300 pounds, clean and jerk 350 pounds plus, and by the way, a lot of them can back squat 500 pounds plus. We're chasing a well-rounded status of fitness and not specialization. There's a difference.
Ricky Garrard coming into his 3rd lap. As we'll check the clock, is Roman Karenikov about 50 meters back of Ricky. as Ricky passes at the 3:40 mark with one final lap to go. And Adrian, as you're saying, this isn't just a one-off event here at the CrossFit Games. These athletes have already run 3.5 miles. They swam a half mile. This morning they did 100 deadlifts at 225 pounds, 100 GHD sit-ups, and 15 rope climbs to 15 feet. And just did a dead sprint on an echo bike with some burpees. They are not coming in fresh.
Absolutely not.
As Ricky Garrard is working his way, pumping up the crowd as he's running down.
Wow.
And that is something that Ricky Garrard feeds on. As we have a packed house here at Farrington Field, thousands of fans have stuck around tonight to watch these athletes fight to be the fittest here at Farrington Field.
He knows he's got what it takes to get first place in this heat, but he wants first place overall.
5:06 the time to beat, set by Luke Parker in heat number 1. Ricky Garrard, a man all by himself, coasting to the finish line, and he will break 5 minutes. Roman Karenikov in second. The fight's for third. Yella Hosta, Brent Fikowski. And Brent Fikowski will hold off Hosta as the rest of the field comes in. As you can see, James Sprague in the red leader shorts is your overall leader after 3 events. Jason Hopper, Dallin Pepper, and Henrik Haapalainen crossing the finish line. And this is not it. This is part 1. And these athletes took it out like this was the only thing they were doing that day, as your 2-time CrossFit Games champ in 21 and 22, Justin Medeiros, is crossing the finish line right at 5:37. Cole Grieshaber well back of the pack as he has 100 meters still left to go.
And this is another sentiment to the diversity of skill sets and capacities in our space. You're going to see athletes that struggle on a mile run just like this and can excel at a very high level at other tests that they're going to run into throughout the course of this week. So again, we are testing to find the fittest. That doesn't lean on any one test dictating the success of a week's outcome for these athletes.
And we celebrate the specialists like we always do. Adrian, you mentioned the Olympics, been on TV, and you see some absurd mile times or 1,500 meter times out there. But what we're doing 6 minutes from finishing this race is they're sprinting across the field and picking up a 100-pound sandbag twice. Ricky Garrard. The question was, can anybody do it? We thought it would be Ricky. And it was him right from the jump.
Man, it was Ricky early and Ricky all the way. It was here, even in the opening stretch of the back half of the initial 300 meters, that he was able to actually set the precedent for the rest of the race, where he would only pull further and further away from the rest of the pack, gesturing to the crowd, let's go, get the noise up, give me some. He feeds off that passion, and we know it coming from Ricky Garrard, and he was able to see it all the way through the finish, coasting to a 4:55 mile.
5 minutes until we hit that 12-minute mark, where we'll do it all over again as Ricky Garrard, 4:55.13. Roman Karenikov and Brent Fikowski, as well as Yella Hosta, get under Luke Parker's time of 5:06.2. Field portion of track and field coming up next. Welcome back to Farrington Field as we have one part left to go for the individual men. The 2024 CrossFit Games are in Fort Worth, Texas for the first time in its history, as Ricky Garrard just ran a sub 5 minute 1600 for part one, as we're getting set for part two.
And he ain't done yet, Chase. It's going to be a 50-yard sprint to a 100-pound star-shaped bag, 50 yards back to the start line, 75 yards out to a new bag and back, and then a 100-yard sprint all the way through the finish line.
Your starting 17 of the second and final heat. Your top three coming in. Lanes 9, 10, 11, Jason Hopper, James Sprague, and Dallin Pepper. But look out for Ricky Garrard, who just ran a sub 5 minute, took part one. He'll be in lane 15. And Ricky Garrard took the mile, but why are you looking at him for the sprint?
Oh my goodness. I mean, a lot of reasons. It's going to come down to a lot of his field sport background, playing rugby, and having the experience of the physicality and the toughness that it takes to take the field and have success in a sport like that. But we've seen this from Ricky time and time again. He has a unique ability to reset, restart with short amount of time and put out a very high level of power.
Well, you said a lot of toughness, and let's talk about Jason Hopper, who just won event 3 on the Echo Bike, but this man knows his way around a football field.
He does. A former Clemson football player coming to the CrossFit space out of his background there, and I think it's going to serve him really well here under the Texas Friday Night Lights.
A man trying to make his way back up the leaderboard is Pat Vellner. 9-time CrossFit Games competitor, has finished second 3 times in his career, but is hard charging over the last 2 events after that 33rd place start in event 1.
He's trying to build some momentum for himself. I like this event for Pat because of the self-awareness. Again, we saw it on display in the last event. We saw him do it time and time again. When he gets a chance to settle into a pace, he can strike gold in the final stretch.
Vellner only 47 points out of first place, and who was holding the first place position until that last event earlier before we came to the field was Yella Hosta, who did not look that good coming across the finish line. Did he push too hard?
Yeah, there's a good chance of that. We immediately see the athletes trying to reset and refurbish themselves to get their mind and their body right for this next high power output. And it's not an easy one. So we're going to see, because we're going to find out very soon when he gets to that second sandbag.
50-yard sprint across the field. Roman Krennikov, Yella Hosta. 100-pound sandbag waiting for him. Ricky Garrard to the bag first. Who can turn around and get it back? It looks like Ricky Garrard. "50 yards at the bag. Now they'll turn around and go 75.
And they don't have to step past the line. All they got to do is toss the bag so it completely crosses over that line. Sprague really opened it up to that next bag.
James Sprague making a move on Ricky Garrard. Ricky Garrard to the bag, Sprague to the bag. It's 75 yards back across the field, and there'll be a 100-yard sprint to the finish line. And in the red shorts, your overall leader, James Sprague, is doing everything he can to get some distance on him and the other athletes before it's a foot race to the finish. And there goes Sprague. James Sprague, a teen athlete, but oh my goodness, Ricky Garrard just got shot out of the cannon. Here comes Pat Vellner. Patty V takes second. Australia back to back for both the men and the women. First and first for Tia. First and first for Ricky Garrard, who is laying in the weeds and turn on the after boosters to blow by James Sprague in the last 50 yards.
Hey, you got to know what you got, and you got to execute at the highest level when the lights are brightest and when the moment matters most. Ricky did just that in that final sprint.
And Ricky Garrard holding up that L for his friend, fellow competitor, Lazar Jukic, who lost his life yesterday in event number 1. It's been a long 2 days, a long day for these athletes. We weren't sure if they would be competing today. Competition started early this morning. But as we close things out,
man, it was Ricky early here setting the tone. We wondered if James kind of laid back in the weeds just enough to pass Ricky, but it was Ricky who on the final stretch, even just after dropping the second sandbag, looked like he was about 5 to 7 yards behind James, and it didn't play a factor at all. By the time he opened up his sprint, got his elbows pumping, He left James in the dust, and then so did Pat V. We see him at the top of the screen coming in for a very close second. We talked about him also being a threat in this, but it was Ricky all the way through that final 100 yards.
The results of part 2, Ricky Garrard gets first overall. Pat Vellner in second place, just edging out James Reg. Luke Parker's finish, holding up for a top 4 for part number 2. So a great finish for Luke Parker with back-to-back top scores there. But Ricky Garrard, what more can you say about him? But let's go down to Mike Arsenault, who's with the back-to-back winner.
Ricky, what a performance here at Farrington Field, Friday Night Lights. I don't know which was most impressive, the full race you put together in the 1600 or that final sprint. So let me ask you the question, what impressed you the most?
I executed both.